Kumarie whakalowhalahi atu. Welcome to the Daily Examiner. My name is Elliot Ikile. It is my pleasure to welcome you in tonight. Tonight is a special meeting. It is one that we have been looking forward to because, you know, as we roll, we like to make sure we confront any issue that comes up and turns up. So, firstly, before we get started, some housekeeping. Make sure that you know where your fire exits are, just in case you need to go if someone decides to Molotov cocktail the building. But if not, what I mean by that, this is also a show where we want to introduce and to allow for you to have a discussion with us, a little talanoa, korero. So anything that you want to bring out, we will do our best to bring it out to our special guest. Also, on top of that, please make sure that if you are we are displaying this on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube. If you're joining in, absolutely wonderful. Just please note that if you're on Twitter, your comments and questions will not come through. It'll only come through on YouTube and Facebook. All right, sick. Yeah. So, decided that some of the things that were going on were a bit rough, but a bit raw, and you know, it reminded me also of when we had the Wellington protests, and then it all devolved on the last day, and there was a character there, the man in the blue jacket or something like that, and many people were saying, "Oh my gosh, he's a police officer, he's customs, whatever." So we actually tracked down and we made sure we confronted exactly that. We actually talked to the person involved. And so we got to the core of what was happening. Well, it's important that we have a discussion with those who are in messy times. And especially since I believe that this is yet again another. We were very late last time in 2020. We could have saved back. We could have brought New Zealand back from the edge. We did not. New Zealand fell over the edge. Now is the time to try to pull them back up. So it is very important that we have a bit of a discussion, a talk, if you will. Now, I'll bring them on now. All right. So please, if you pop in anything, absolutely fine. We will do our best to bring it into you. But right now, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome to the stage the leader of DemocracyNZ. This is Matt King. Matt, talofa, whakalofa atu. Welcome.
G'day, Elliot. Lovely to be here.
Awesome. Now, just before we get started, we've got some wonderful people there who are already in there. Hey, good to be here for the first time. Today's the day one. Excellent. Well said. Excellent. Nathan, hey, we always like your comments, all the strong comments. We go no longer neutral. Excellent. So this is what we love to do. We want to have a good, strong chat about things. Throw them in there, not a problem. We'll talk about stuff. So Matt, been awesome, been great. I have to say, I've been watching what's happening with DemocracyNZ. You're having massive meetings all around the place. Before we get into the tough stuff, which is good, and I'm glad that you're here to have a chat about that, tell me, how have the meetings been going? How's the surge of the people around the country?
Look, it's been really incredible. I mean, every meeting we've had nearly a full house. I mean, even from little cafe meetings, 100 people in a little cafe, to over 200 people in cozy clubs, bigger venues, 450 people in Christchurch at the Burnside High Auditorium, you know, 400, 350, 400 at Rangiora at the town halls. So we've been getting some good numbers. I think my smallest meeting has been about 45 at a cafe.
Wow. Jesus, yeah, that's really excellent. Now, we're going to have a chat about some tough stuff, but then I also do want to have a talk about some more of your policies and what's been going on. So again, for all of you guys out there, thank you so much for joining us. Chuck in your comments, your questions. I'll do my best to bring them out into the talanoa so we can go. Now, we know that there's been some rough stuff going on, so let's go into it. Now, firstly, one of the biggest questions that we got from our listeners was the Bill of Rights. Has the Bill of Rights been erased from DemocracyNZ website? What's going on with it? Entrenched, not entrenched? What's going on?
Okay, so our position on the Bill of Rights has not changed one bit. It's core to our party. It's the reason that we actually started was the breaches of the Bill of Rights and the fact that the mandates, the checkpoints, the MIQ, the masking, all the traffic light system, everything that's the people losing their careers, in some cases their lives, vaccine injured, all that. That is the core of our party, our Bill of Rights, and we treat it as a sacred document. So we've been using the word entrenching on our website and in our flyers. But we took some legal advice, and the legal advice said entrenching doesn't mean what it means or what people think it means, because what we want is the Bill of Rights to be a sacred document that can't be breached. That means that it's supreme law, so that any bill that goes through Parliament has to get the Bill of Rights tick. And there's a whole lot of bits of legislation that have gone through in the last five and a half years that have breached the Bill of Rights. And that's the reason we had the protests and the convoys and all this madness that we still continue to suffer these mandates and madness. So for me, the Bill of Rights is key to that. We haven't changed one bit. We changed the wording to call it protect and preserve the Bill of Rights, which for me, people, the common man and woman, understand that better. Enshrining has more of a legal definition, and it's problematic for us. So this was advice taken from various lawyers that we've consulted, that it was better to convey what we mean by using the protect and preserve words, and to say that we can consider the Bill of Rights a sacred document that can never be breached. And so when we heard that a statement was made that we had flip-flopped, or we had changed the wording and therefore weren't honouring what we've been talking to everyone about, that's just a complete, it's misinformation, basically. It's not true.
Right. So, yeah, and I know that you're very strong and passionate about that Bill of Rights arena, actually. I did do a little bit of backgrounds, and you are correct. That word entrench has been used by several political figures before, but it doesn't actually mean what we often think it means, the idea of legislating a protection around it. Just going on with that Bill of Rights, we've got the Bill of Rights now, how does that look? Would you, God willing, that you get into Parliament and you've got the ability to put in a bill? Is it a bill that you'd go to put it forward there, or would you fight every element that goes to attack or breach the Bill of Rights? Okay,
so the legislation in the Bill of Rights has a clause in it that allows it to be overruled. It allows a government in circumstances to disregard the Bill of Rights. So the long-term aim would be, let's come up with a constitutional document that protects the Bill of Rights and makes it so that it's supreme law. That's the long-term goal. But in the short term, to get our country back on track, you just need politicians in the House that hold the balance of power, that say, you will not pass legislation that breaches it, and then review every bit of legislation passed in the past that has breached it, and either repeal that legislation or make significant amendments so that it doesn't breach the Bill of Rights. So, because at the moment, any legislation that goes through the House has to be, they do an assessment of it against the Bill of Rights, and then they do a report. So the Attorney General does a report to the Parliament that says, this bit of legislation breaches it or doesn't breach it, breaches it by seriously or minor breaches, whatever, and gives advice in a written report, and that's considered by the Parliament. And I believe that no legislation should pass through the House that in any way breaches the Bill of Rights. That's a really good foundational core value of our party.
Yeah, well said. Well said. All right, now we might come around to some other elements about the Bill of Rights, but I like what I'm hearing there. Now let's get into the resignations. We do know that several of the ex-candidate or the candidates of DemocracyNZ resigned. We do know that they put out a statement as well. I'm just going to bring up that statement here just for our viewers to have a look at. That's right there. And the statement does follow certain, there's a lot of writing in there. We know that a lot of our people have already read it, and they've read both themselves, and they've heard from yourself in that regard as well. Now, look, I'm giving you the floor here, Matt. Would love to hear from you just in terms of the guys themselves, the ex-candidates. What do you have to say about in terms of where they are, the statement that they've given out, anything of that nature?
Okay, so for me, I have no criticism of the candidates that we had that have left us, and I wish them all the best. And I have no ill will for them, and they're all good people. They're good people, and they have skills, and they have experience in certain areas. And so we have no grudge with them, and I certainly don't want to be getting into a situation where we're tit for tat stuff. I don't want to do that. So what I can tell you about that we had to make a decision about one of the candidates. We had to deselect him, and as a result of us deselecting him, 4 other of his colleagues that were aligned with him decided to resign pretty much straight away. They then made the statement that they put out, which I do take issue with, because there's some things in that statement that are simply not correct. For example, one of the lines there is full transparency of the members of the board and leadership. So all our candidates know who all the board members are. They are in a candidate handbook that we give to them when they first join the party. Their names and their email addresses are readily available to the board members, to the candidates. And we have Zoom meetings regularly where board members attend. And I happen to know that all the candidates have been on Zoom calls in the last month or two where the full board were on that Zoom call. So the idea that they don't know who the board members are is actually incorrect. And the second thing I want to address there is leadership. So a statement was made that there is a shadow leader, and that's quite sinister, because to anyone that's outside looking in would seem that I'm a puppet and someone else is effectively running the party, and that is simply untrue. I am the leader. The board of 6, of which I'm a member of that board, effectively governs the party. I have people that I delegate the responsibility for and who I trust very much. And I'll give you one example. I know who they're referring to as the shadow leader, and that's a board member called Sam. And I'll only use her first name. And Sam has been to 80 of the 84 public meetings that I have had. She is public in that respect. I introduced her as the co-founder of the party. So there are literally thousands of people around New Zealand that have met Sam or seen Sam and seen her described as the co-founder of the party, because she is the co-founder. She's a massive asset to the party. She's donated the most, supported us the most financially, but mainly her skills and experience and her time. I could not, DemocracyNZ would not exist without her. But in terms of her being a shadow leader or a co-leader, that's a myth. That doesn't happen. I'm the leader of the party. The board are unified behind us. We're solid, and there is no issues in that respect. So when I read that, I think that's mischief making. That's actually people from the outside looking in will read that and think there's something really sinister about that. And I can tell you, they mean the shadow leader they're referring to in that letter is Sam, and everyone knows who Sam is.
I'll jump in there too. I've come across things like this before, and it has, on occasion, there might be, and I guess I'm talking in terms of organizational psychology here, but you can get people who may get frustrated with processes or areas of concern, and that may lead to thoughts which are inaccurate, which may feel like, yeah, man, this sucks, and this is why, you know what, this person must be the boss, and that sort of thing. I don't mean to jump in there, but it's just something that I've come across myself before in terms of organizational structures. So yeah, I tend to agree with your thoughts out there. Can I just ask now? Tell me if you've already answered this in the way you've made a mention, and it is actually inappropriate. And I'll jump in here too again. That it is inappropriate to speak about those people or that person who you have deselected, because it it's inappropriate. It's actually inappropriate. Whether it's in a professional, political, or even a personal environment, it would actually be inappropriate. So that's something which I'm happy to not go into do ahead. Can I just ask also, I wanted to ask a question that was that did come up quite large with our people as well, is the field days. The field days, which were big and all the parties were there, and yet you were not there. Are you able to help us get some transparency on that?
Sure. So I was there 6 months before when we had the situation where field days, which is normally an annual event, because of COVID or because of lockdowns or something, they had two field days effectively only a few months apart. So we had a stand at field days in Mystery Creek for the 3 or 4 days that it runs. And I was there for every day on the stand, as was a whole team of us. This time round, I decided to have our candidates in branded gear mobile. And I was on the week that was happening, I was on a 7-day, 9-meeting tour around the North Island. And I was responding to numerous requests from supporters and others to come to the various towns. And so this had been planned for quite some time. And the reality is I only have limited time before I have to concentrate on Northland, because the strategy for winning out in Parliament is winning Northland. So I have to get these visits around the country out of the way so that I can get back to Northland and concentrate on winning that seat.
Yep, fair enough. Fair enough. Now, I also do want to bring up there was a discussion that was held this morning at RCR Reality Check Radio, I think it is. The Sue Gray was noted to make a statement. Is there anything you can mention to us about that? What happened there?
Yeah, so that was another really disturbing thing, because what we've got is people just hear one side of a story, like the vitriol that's come down on social media from people that have heard one side of the story, not bothered to hear our side of the story, or just jump to conclusions and the worst case scenario without us having the opportunity to rebut it. Now, I was on the road that whole week when all that was happening, and we were in and out of coverage, and quite frankly, I was exhausted. And you'll see in one of the first videos I did in response to what had happened, you could see that I was pretty exhausted, and so that was a bit unfair. But for me, Sue Gray was on RCR Radio, and she was asked a question by Paul Brennan, is what's your make on what happened with DemocracyNZ? Now, she said that some of her friends were our candidates and had since left the party, and that is true. Some of her people that are friends with Sue. And then she said the rumours are that Ross Murant is a shadowy figure that's running DemocracyNZ and involved in DemocracyNZ, her words, and that Ross Murant was involved in importing vaccines from Russia, COVID vaccines from Russia.
Okay, wow.
And that she was responding in that way because the question prior she had been asked about Brian Tamaki and his testing stations in the car park of his church, and was that dodgy, and was he making money out of that? And I can't comment on that because I don't know, and I won't be commenting on it, but it's in the public arena. So she was asked about that. So she turned around and said, so it's a bit hypocritical of DemocracyNZ and for this to be involved. Well, I can tell you now categorically that is a lie. She is lying, and I invite her to sue me, because we have no involvement with DemocracyNZ has no involvement with Ross Murant. He is not on the scene. He is not in the background. I have not had communication with him in terms of anything. And I just think that's mischief making, and that's pretty dirty politics. And I cannot refute it enough. And that is one of the reasons why I would not be involved with Sue Gray and ever think of going in partnership with her, because of things like that. And it really grated on me when I heard her say that, because the big wide world of social media out there, because a few people listen to RCR, they'll hear that and go, oh, Matt's with Ross Murant, he's involved in dodgy stuff. And that is so wrong. Have I made myself clear? Have I made myself clear?
Hey. Yeah. There we go. Look, that's absolutely fair enough. Yeah, I mean that's straight out. That's pretty clear. Mm, this is a little segue, but I would like to hear. So there have been a lot of people saying, you've got New Conservative, you've got Democracy NZ, you've got Freedoms NZ, you've got these other parties out there. Is there a chance that they would join under one umbrella? Is it possible? Would you do that? What's your take on the whole umbrella situation?
Look, I wish them well. I won't be joining up with any umbrella party. I believe that that there is so many variables to take into account. I've spent 18 months building up the brand of Democracy NZ. We have really good candidates. We've got another 3 or 4 to name. We've got 10 now. We had 15, obviously. We've got 10 now, but we've got another 3 or 4 to name or announce. And for me, I would have to bump one of those candidates down the list to accommodate the party leaders of those other umbrella parties, and I'm not prepared to do that. We have a good team. We have good policy. We're announcing policy in the next few weeks, and we've been working hard on it now for months now, of which the candidates have had good input. And I think people just need to work out who's the horse that's likely to get across the line, and support them. And we are the best. We have the best chance of winning a seat, and that is the key to getting into Parliament.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Now, just help me out here. If you do win your seat, how many percentage points? Is it 2%, and then you get other people in? How does that work?
Okay, so the trigger points are 5% party vote or win a seat, and in 2017, David Seymour got 0.5% of the party vote around the country, so he got nothing, but he won his seat and he got into Parliament, and then he turned a one-man band into I don't know how many he got, eight MPs now, maybe 9, I'm not sure.
9, I think, yeah. Yep.
So from one election to the next, he turned it around. So that's a pretty phenomenal success. The Maori Party had 1.2% of the party vote in 2020, and they won a seat. And because of that 1.2%, they got 2 MPs. So and so that they got in that way. So for us, the option, the best option, or the most viable option to get into Parliament for a minor party is to win a seat, and that's our focus. I mean, we're going for party vote around the country, and we will get good party vote around the country. I'm absolutely sure of that. But every 0.8% of party vote, it translates into an MP.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. Just even on another little related but unrelated topic for today, This is actually a really good comment here from Wendy. What about using the 1688, the Bill of Rights 1688, to protect the people? Now, I'm not sure if you know that particular Bill of Rights.
No, I don't. I've gone with the most recent one, and the most recent one, if there's a couple of amendments to it, will absolutely protect us. I'm not ruling out maybe using previous versions of it or previous legislation, but that if we had the Bill of Rights, if the government of this day had actually treated the Bill of Rights, the current one, with the respect that it deserves, we wouldn't have any of the chaos and suffering that we've had. We wouldn't, because the law would have been passed through. The Health Response Bill, which is still being extended out to, I think, 2024, that wouldn't pass. It wouldn't get through Parliament because it's got breaches of the Bill of Rights all through it.
Yeah. No, well said. Wendy, yep, I love this Bill of Rights 1688. Probably my favourite policy that I've ever been, the organisations that I've been a part of, is the bill that would have pushed forward the idea of a constitution based off the Bill of Rights 1688, combined with the Magna Carta. I thought that was a powerful document to protect the people, protect the rights and responsibility of individual and family. So no, I think that was actually really, really good.
If there was some sort of in the future, so some work done in that area where they came up and bought all those different areas and came together and had a legal team and a lot of work and came up with some sort of constitutional document, that actually could hold water and could protect us as Kiwis against government, so against the government, this is our rulers, then I'm all for it. And I think you get 98% of Kiwis voting for it as well.
Yep. No, well said. Well said. Oh well, let me bend your ear, eh? Hey, I love it what we've got here. Now, just we're going through some of the areas here. You've brought up the idea of a constitution, actually. So, can you tell me that currently we've got a call for a constitution. We've got co-governance. I'm just going to throw you some parts in there. Can you tell us what's up with co-governance? Are you good with it, or are you a racist? Are you a racist bigot? And then you don't.
Yeah, well, I'm opposed to co-governance because I believe if you have co-governance, you have no democracy. I'm a believer in one person, one vote, and everyone democratically elected. So co-governance to me is scary. Co-governance as presented by the current government is scary stuff, and I'm opposed to it.
Yep. No. Well said. Well said. And of course, we've got. So I'm an Aucklander, South Aucklander. We had yesterday an axe attack in 3 different restaurants. Someone has been slashing and smashing people over the head and the arms. I believe today we had another daylight ram raid on. I think it was a Michael Hill jeweler or a jewelry store in it. So, what are your thoughts anyway in terms of crime and how would you guys deal with that?
Look, I think crime's out of control. I think that we've got increased lawlessness. I think that the government have lost control of the streets. I think that our police have been hamstrung because they're grossly under-resourced for the level of crime that they're having to face. I have first-hand experience of that because I've got a lot of colleagues and family that are in the job, so I hear first-hand I feel very sorry for the police at the moment, and I think that that it's a systemic issue, and I think the government of the day have gone light on it. I know they've emptied out some of the prisons, and I think the gangs are running some towns. I certainly know in my local town there's a lot of lawlessness because the cops are mobile and they're spread very thinner than they ever were, definitely thinner than they were 20 years ago.
But does that mean that you'd be looking at harsher sentencing laws? Would you be looking at more police intervention programs, management programs? What sort of things are you looking at, or are you keeping that on the down low for now?
Oh, look, we believe in. We've got a few law and order policies that we want to bring in, but I believe we need to properly resource our organised crime units because I think that they pay for themselves. They seize assets off gang members and the 501s and the hardcore criminals because they're the ones that commit the major level of crime in terms of the drug trade, and then the dishonesty offending that's done by all the rest of the crims. That's to feed the drug habits, and we've got massive drug issues. There's some towns where almost everyone's on P, and they're committing crimes to pay for it, and the gangs are the providers of the drug that are causing the onflow of dishonesty crime and the ram raids and all that stuff. But I also think that criminals have got really bold because they've seen copycat crimes, they've seen ram raids going down, and cops never used to be able to chase them because if you drove dangerously, they had to pull out. So the government the police need to change their policy on pursuits. There was about roughly 5,000 pursuits a year, and they changed their policy and pulled out if they drove dangerously, and now that doubled, and there were 10,000 pursuits. So I think that they need to review their policy and they need to chase people, and then maybe tougher penalties is one of our policies for people that run from the police. If you've been convicted of running from the police in the past and you run again and you drive dangerously, then the penalty of the law will be heavy.
Okay, no, fair enough. Now we have had another question in there, which I will out now just to let you know, team, just for our people out there. There have been. I want to bring in questions, but there are a couple of questions now. I've made this decision because there are a couple of questions, as someone who's gone through this sort of thing before, where they're actually inappropriate. And Matt hasn't said anything here. I'm actually saying that it's actually inappropriate for him to ask a couple of questions that have been put up there, repeated. Now, the questions are any question that I think is appropriate, no worries, I'll chuck it in there. But if it's inappropriate, what I mean by inappropriate is crossing legal boundaries, then I think that's a problem. All right. So one that has been brought up there is this one. Nick Roberts, is the Democracy NZ board democratically elected by its members? Fair point. Is that something that you can give us there, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you form a party from scratch, there were no members to vote in the board. So the board was effectively, I guess you could say, self-appointed, because there was that you needed to have a management team to start the party. So we gathered together a group of people that became the board members, and we have in our constitution, we started the party from scratch. Then members join, pay their subs. We all sign up to being, there's a constitution and the incorporated society that we're members of, which is the foundation of the party. The party is an incorporated society, and that's just a vehicle for a political party to form. It has members. The members, you had to have 16 members technically, and those 16 members helped pick the board. And then the board, we had a 2-year initial period for the board to run without an election, which takes us to next year. So after this year's election, and at the AGM, I think March, April next year, there will be elections, and board members will be recycled, or they will resit or run for re-election, or stand down and be people come in, and that's all stock standard stuff. That's all. That's there's nothing unusual or anything untoward about that.
Yep. No, fair enough. Fair enough. Melanie's coming there with a good question there. Has the party got a deputy leader?
No. The board will appoint a deputy leader. I think when we come to the point where we name our list, there will be number 2 on the list will be the deputy. That's to be picked by the board, of which I'm a member, and that's coming up in the next couple of months. Yeah.
Right, yeah, that's right, of course, because you've got a set of dates of which you need to submit certain elements of your board and key memberships. But fair enough. No, that's good. Now, Andrew has popped in a great question here as well, and it's fair. What is your plan? What is your plan to win Northland?
Okay, so I want to explain the difference with Northland over a lot of other electorates. So most electorates are a red-blue horse race, and when the red team comes in, the blue team loses, and this other way around. That's pretty much around the country. That's the norm. In Northland, we have a unique situation because we actually have 4 either sitting MPs or ex-MPs running as candidates. So we've got an ACT candidate who's a list MP who really doesn't have a chance of winning the seat, but he's doing a great job, and he will get more vote because I think that ACT have lifted their game a bit. We've got a Labor candidate who, in my view, has been missing in action, and she got twice the vote in 2020 that the electorate's ever got in the history of the electorate. So I think that vote will return to a more normal situation. We've got a brand new national candidate that's largely unknown, and then we have Shane Jones running there as well. So that's
Shane Jones is the one, right?
That's the red card. Not the red card. That's the
and might be a red card.
No, red card. Yeah, sort of not the right terminology. What is it? What? Wild card. Wild card.
You've been yelled at from the sidelines.
Yeah. I said someone giving me some feedback. And then there's obviously myself and the ex-MP that I did one term. I like to think that I did a reasonable job because I worked my backside off. I had some good staff and we got some good wins. So we're pushing the motorway north. The motorway that got opened between Puhoi and Warkworth is a massive bit of infrastructure, and we would be pushing to continue building that road all the way to Whangarei and start at both ends. That would be a massive win for Northland because in Northland, we need people and services, and we need transport links because we've got a feral, way not fit for purpose road leading us to Northland. And every time there's a decent rainfall, we have slips, and it's not acceptable because Northland's a growing region.
Which road is that one?
Well, the expressway from Puhoi, the Puhoi tunnel through to Warkworth has just been opened, and it's a 18-kilometre stretch of the most beautifully engineered road probably in the country. And we need to build a 4-lane highway all the way to Whangarei, because once that road is built, Northland will go gangbusters. Never mind building museums and monuments and, that sort of stuff. Let's build that transport infrastructure and get Northland going.
No, fair enough. You nearly said Wellsford there, which is, of course, a little township. You nearly said Wellsford there, which is, of course, a little township between Auckland and Whangarei. And I just want to put out there a bit of a shout out to, because Wellsford is the best place to buy biltong. I just want to put it out there. Yeah, well, best place to buy biltong.
We have a meeting up there on this Saturday night at 7 o'clock at the Wellsford Community Hall. Come along.
Oh, snap. Yep. You're going to have to get the biltong chakalaka with chili.
Yeah.
All right.
I know that South Africans run it, don't they?
Yeah. Oh, gosh, yeah. No, definitely good one. Now we've got another one. Now this is fair, and I would like to. It's a fair question. Here we've got Vlad. Vlad has asked, have any board members resigned?
Yes, of course. We've had one resignation. Very interesting that he should ask that. Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, see, what I do like, I have to say, is that you're answering questions.
And I want to say in that situation, and we won't go into that detail, but that board member was also not public facing. So there's issues about us having non-public facing board members for various reasons, and totally legitimate reasons and totally fair reasons. And that board member was one of those people that was not publicly known, not on our website, but nonetheless a legitimate board member.
Yeah, and just to let you guys know out there, just for our audience, that in boards you can actually have ones who are not public facing. You are able to have them. It is, I wouldn't say it's common practice, but it's not uncommon practice, if you know what I mean. It does happen. When I heard about this, that was not one of the things that I was concerned about, because I know I've seen them reasonably quite often before. There was a really, really good question here as well. I thought Alison brought up a very good one. Are you going to...
Sorry, Elliot, I want to just answer one question before I do that.
Go for it.
So there's an insinuation that because we have a couple of board members that are not on the website, they have legitimate reasons for why they're not there, safety and personal reasons. And there's nothing dodgy about it. There's nothing. They are known to the candidates, their names, their faces, their email addresses. The candidates know who they are. And quite a few people within the organisation know who they are. But for various legitimate reasons, we've kept their names private. And the idea that for some reason that people feel that that's not being transparent, that's just normal practice. And I sort of really push back on people insinuating that we're doing something dodgy. Our candidates know who they are. They know them well. They've met them on multiple Zooms, and some of them they've met in person. And so I just push back on that, because it's not dodgy at all.
Yeah, I can also confirm. I don't know about Matt's board, DemocracyNZ's board, I don't know, but this is a situation I've come across quite often in different boards that I've been a part of, that you will have some who do not, and often it is either reason around either direct safety or other types of safety, not necessarily violent actions against them, but other types of actions against them that can occur because of it. And as a conservative in New Zealand, I definitely come across it.
I see the question here that Charlene Mark has said, if the board members aren't prepared to stand behind the party, why should we? Well, you don't elect the board members, you elect the candidates. They form the parliamentary wing, and they are the ones that represent you in Parliament. The board is just, all parties have boards. And I don't see anyone kicking up any kind of trouble about who's on any of the other boards. That's not an issue. It's just come up because there's an insinuation that we're doing something dodgy, which we're not.
Yep. No, fair enough. I do want to bring up this other question that has been brought up here. There we go. From Alison as well. Are you going to call the government to answer questions regarding ministers dealing with the WEF and their personal ties? Can I also extend that out to a push to discuss around the lockdown processes, the relationship with Pfizer, those sorts of questions out there?
Absolutely. I think that you need to shine sunlight on this. And if there is any, I know that there was a bill or proposed in the UK Parliament about, or it might have been the US, but I think it was the UK, around people's connections with the WEF and other organisations that I believe are not healthy for New Zealand. So definitely, I think that, I proposed a bill to go before Parliament when I was there, that anyone sitting local or central government candidates had to disclose if they had any criminal convictions, which is not a legal requirement, and so that we can have situations where the voters know who they're voting for. And that came out of the fact that there was a guy running for the mayoral role, 2 mayoral roles up here, 2 different characters that have both been in jail, both been convicted of violent and serious crimes, but no one knew that they'd done that, and they were running for mayoral positions. And I just thought that's crazy. So for me, anyone that's got any links to any organisations that are not good for New Zealand, we'd like to know about it. And for me, I've been challenged big time about having connections to any of these things, and it's just I have no connection with anything. I'm just I'm my own guy. Yeah.
Yep, no, fair enough. There is actually one that I would like to ask, and I'm being a bit selfish here because this is a bit of an area that's a bit close to my heart. Gender ideology going into our schools, basically being pushed down our children's throats. There are quite vicious statistics already coming out from the other nations that have had them in there for years. No parliamentary party will touch it. I understand they are fearful of opposing or confronting this. What is your position? What is the DemocracyNZ's position on gender ideology?
Okay, so we're opposed to it. We believe let kids be kids. We believe that kids have got a tough enough job as it is, without being things being jammed down their throat. So when they're young kids up to 12, 13, 14, they need to. I believe that we should keep that away from kids. I'm a very compassionate guy and a very empathetic guy and a live and let live sort of guy. Don't hurt if you don't hurt anyone else. But I just think let kids be kids and keep that sort of stuff out of our lives. No one wants it. I don't think any parent wants that.
No, fair enough. Absolutely fair enough. And also, we've got a cost of living crisis. We've got I would say that we're economically nearly ruined. We've had the OCR keep on getting pumped up. We've got house costs that fluctuate in a real weird sense. We've got immigration that's only now coming on board. Do you have an economic policy, or I can understand why you'd want to keep it a bit quiet. Have you got anything that you can give us about how you guys would deal with economics in this country?
Okay, so for me, I think it's madness that we banned oil and gas exploration. Even though I'm green at heart, I'm a sustainable energy guy. I think that we need to open our minds up, and every resource that we've got, we need to open the doors on and get cranking, because we are not a rich country, but we are a mineral rich country. I think that the Marsden Point refinery being shut down was, to me, an economic sabotage. I think that it's crazy that we are now relying on fuel, refined fuel coming into the country. I think that was a strategically bad decision, and it happened. The decision was obviously made years ago, so not necessarily blaming this government, but it's happened under this government's watch. And I think that we should have done everything in our power to stop that. I also believe that Kiwis are really good at developing and growing and producing, and we need to get out of their lives. So a lot less regulation in our lives. So if you bring in a law in this country, you should have to get rid of 2. And if you're in the primary industries, I think that they're just being absolutely hamstrung by legislation and rules and regulations that are just smothering out the entrepreneurship or the productive sector. And I think it's crazy. So that's just a no-brainer. I mean, if you're kind to small business, which is the bulk of our businesses in New Zealand, our economy will flourish. Start paying our bills, stop wasting money, stop borrowing, just run our country like a business and which looks after its people.
And I still remember Deborah Russell during, I believe it was one of the lockdowns, basically saying that it was small business' fault that they were having struggles through the lockdowns, showing an absolute miserable understanding of anything about small businesses, fighting hard for that struggle. I found it disgusting. Now, just a few more. Oh, carry on.
I was going to say, I feel for businesses. I've run several myself. And when the lockdowns happen, I know someone that just bought a motel and the lockdown happened and tourists stopped coming. And they just signed the deal, borrowed the money, and effectively their whole income was taken out from under them. And I think that was just so much unnecessary suffering for people. What we should have done is protect our most vulnerable people and let the rest of the economy carry on as normal and let people make their own mind up about the risks. And hindsight's a beautiful thing, but I think very early on we realized that there was something not quite right with what was being imposed on us. And I think common sense dictates that. And I saw all these people walk into cafes with masks on, sit down and eat their meal, take the mask off. And I thought, oh, isn't that funny that, why are we walking one way down an aisle and people stacked up behind each other 100 deep, but it was madness. To me, it was madness. I got in trouble because I went to a restaurant with my family. This was before masking, but there was still spacing. And the guy that came and served all the meals at our table, so the main waiter, he served all 6 of us meals and was touching us as he handed the plates through on the table. And at the end of that meal, and he was a lovely guy, it was in Pai here, and it's called the Greens Restaurant.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah, lovely place. And at the end of the meal, because I was an MP and he knew me, we lined up for a photo because I like to promote business. I like to put posts up saying, hey, I had a lovely meal at the Greens Restaurant in Pai here. And when I got good service and a lovely meal, I like to put a post up and say, hey, just to support them, just to help them. And he was standing right next to me and we're all basically close. And then someone said, oh, social distancing, you're breaching that. And I thought, no, I've got a brain in my head. And man, did I cop some crap for that.
It's just shocking. Jeez. Look, you've been really awesome. I'm going to bring out just a few more, just maybe about 3 more questions. Team, you guys are bringing through some really good questions for Matt. Thank you so much. Now, Mark Thomas has also brought this one up here. He's basically asking, I will still be voting for DNZ and volunteering for DNZ regardless of how you answer my question, Matt. So are you still going to support licensed firearms owners and try to reverse the draconian gun laws of 2019 and 2020?
Okay, Mark, I've had 84 meetings around the country, and at every meeting I have said that we will absolutely support the review and reversal of the draconian gun laws, because I'm a gun owner myself, and it was a knee-jerk reaction to a massacre that was really sad day in our history. None of the submissions, the ones that could have really made good law, were used. Everyone was reacting. The MPs and the select committee were reacting to what was a horrible massacre and in my view, created bad law. And I think that's one of the things we should do in the first 100 days. Take the 20,000 submissions that were made and create some good law. Because the last time I looked, gang members don't refer to the firearms law before they put their sawn-off shotty in the car and head off to go and do a crime.
Yep, absolutely right. Absolutely right. And you know what? It's still very interesting to me that they have not really confronted the fact that even I can't believe it, but Stuff wrote an article on this, how when the scumbag actually was being vetted, that he said, no, we won't meet at my house, we'll go meet at my workplace. And then he said, oh, well, we also need to get testimonies from 2 people who have to be your direct, deeply intimate friends. No, here we go. Here's a couple of guys who know me online, nothing else. I think that needs to be confronted at some stage, the shocking level of it. Now, second to last question. Oh, sorry, carry on, Matt, carry on.
No, I agree with you. I think if the process that actually was in place was actually used and done properly, he wouldn't have got that license, and I mean, who knows how he would have gone about it, but it would certainly made it harder for him to get the weapons he had.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Now, here's another. This is a good question from Melanie. Yes, I know this is a question that you've answered before. I'd love for you to answer, just for those of us who are also communicating in that abortion. Should abortion be taxpayer funded? Would you review the horrific new abortion law, Matt?
Look, abortion is such a controversial topic, Elliot. And as a party, we don't have a position on abortion or euthanasia. We have individual conscience votes. So the individual candidate can vote with their conscience. I think that's the fairest way to go. I am pro-choice in terms of abortion, but I voted against the law that they passed most recently because I thought that it was actually a really bad law compared. I voted for the initial stages to see whether they could amend it into something that was more palatable and more reasonable, and I voted against it on the last vote, which is the crucial one, which decides whether it becomes law. And I just felt that the law was actually just too extreme for me. But I can say I'm fundamentally supportive of women being able to get abortions when they desperately need it. So I voted against that new law, but I'm not against abortion itself. But I don't think. I guess if there was a groundswell of a huge petition of people wanting to have the law reviewed, then I wouldn't be opposed to that being up for review. But it's not something that I would actually consider a topic that I'd really want to go there with. It's just one of those things. I'm being very.
No, and you've always been very straight with that, and I do appreciate that. I have to say, you're a lot more closer to those of us who are pro-life than Christopher Luxon, which is extraordinary. We've seen him say that he's pro-life, yet at the same time he seems desperate to proclaim he's not going to touch it, anything. Where you're saying that, hey, if there is a support from the public to at least look at what is actually a shocking extreme law now, then you'll do it. I mean, as many of our audience out there, just let you know, of course, that New Zealand has the most extreme abortion bill in the Western world. No other Western nation has a more extreme abortion bill than us. Under the law, you're not a person in New Zealand. They changed this in the Crimes Act. You're no longer a person until you are now fully out of the womb with the only possible connection through umbilical cord, which means that if you find an abortionist who wants to do a partial birth abortion, so be it. And I have seen one of those. I don't really want to go into that, but I get a little bit teary. But that's fine, absolutely fine. Let's have a look for another last question. And I do want to put in here, this is from Megan. Will you fight for an actual impartial complaints authority with actual powers to hold police accountable if they get it wrong, and one for politicians who do? Oh, snap. Okay, I like that one.
I do love that, and I'll tell you why. For me, I saw the write-up of the police complaints authority for just the overview one, and I looked at it and I thought it had good things in it, but I also thought there were absolutely total fabrications and misinformation. They made statements that I knew when I was on the ground was false, so I read it. I thought, you know what, we have to have our police accountable. It has to be funded properly. It has to be truly independent. I know that in a lot of inquiries, the police investigate themselves, and on minor stuff, I think. I don't know how we could get around that. Although if we had a sort of like an internal affairs, a decently funded, decent sized internal affairs type department within the police, but separate from them in terms of, they have a degree of independence, or they have, maybe investigators or ex-police or something involved in it. I would be for that, because I saw some terrible stuff at the protest. I saw some police that were just doing some horrendous breaches. The guy Portaloo, what is his name? Portaloo Pete, or I can't remember. Portaloo,
Portaloo
Paul Lefil, I think was his name. And you can clearly see the cop go in and gouge his eyes, and he had horrendous injuries. And that was a major.
Yeah.
And I look at that and I go, that guy needs to be in court. That copper needs to be in court, because I've been in the front line of a violent protest before many times. And I would never gouge someone's eye like that. That was shocking. And one for politicians. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Jeez.
Yeah.
They really do. They use parliamentary privilege quite a lot. I do notice. It's when I think about Marama Davidson over last week. Marama Davidson, and I've seen, for example, the Te Pāti Māori be kicked out for utterly racist things, just things that far out. Like it's nearly to Malema, to Joseph Malema sort of status. It's just quite shocking. Now, I said that there would only be 3 questions, but this one's kind of nice. I'm really curious about your take on this one. All right, if it Funga has put up this little question here. What are 3 things that define a great leader, and do you possess these traits? Now, of course, the second one's going to be, or I think you should give it a go anyway. But I am curious. What do you think? What are 3 things that you think do make a great or a good leader?
Yeah, no, that's that question's being asked by an interesting person too, who I happen to know, and who happens to be not totally independent, put it that way. For me, a good leader leads. A good leader leads from the front. A good leader involves everyone that they can. Sometimes you have to make hard decisions, and those are unpopular, and they will obviously upset people. I've just gone through that just recently. I was one of 6 board members that made a decision that we knew was going to be difficult, and then we knew there was going to be blowback, and it had to be made. But a good leader is for other people to judge, not the leader themselves. It's for other people.
No, absolutely well said. I do. I agree with that. Absolutely 100%. There was, but I think I would actually say that. Look, Susie's been one of the last ones to make a comment here. Thank you for standing with us for Kiwis at the mandate protest. Matt King, you walk the talk, you're a man with mana. Can I just say to us out there, and I know that for some of us out there, some of us will be still, but I would say that you've answered the questions pretty straight on. I have stopped a couple of the questions simply because I know very well it's inappropriate / illegal or crossing legal boundaries to ask. But I got to give it up to you there, Matt. I asked you questions. You knew some of them were already coming. I've also asked questions from our people out there. Some of them have been quite tough, and yet you've answered it straight up. So I give you props for that. Can you just leave us just with maybe just a last minute or couple of minutes where tell us about the party. Why should people be voting for you? It's a freedom community are really strong about this as well. Can you give us a little bit there?
Hey, well, I'll tell you what, Elliot, I think you're a good leader. That's pretty obvious to me. I've seen you do some great work, and you're an honest man, and you're a straight up man, and you wear your heart on your sleeve, and you fight the good fight. So I think you're a good leader, and you don't have to tell me that because I'm telling you are. Now I'll say in terms of what's ahead of us now. Okay, there was talk around the fact that we're imploding. We're not imploding. Tomorrow night we have a Facebook Live at 7:00 on my Facebook, where I invite everyone to come in and ask questions. Very similar stuff. They want to find all about what's going on and ask us all similar questions to what you have. We'll have all our candidates on, our 10 remaining candidates. There's 3 or 4 more that won't be on because they're not announced yet, but the 10 that are actually candidates now that are on our website that you can see, they'll all be on it. I've told them to be very honest and open with everything they do and say. You can direct questions at each individual candidate, and so you can get the answers you can find out from the team. You'll find that we're actually very solid and united and a team, and we're working towards the election on October 14th. This is a glitch. It's a negative, but we're going to rise above it, and we're going to end on a high with a success at the election day. And I'd love you to be there, Elliot, when we're doing it. You have an invitation. I'll buy you a drink, mate. I'll buy you a drink.
Oh, look, awesome. And look, just thank you so much for everyone who's joined in. My understanding, I believe that I might have been seconded. I might have been roped into facilitating / MC in a particular meeting on Thursday night. I believe there might be a fresh Islander lady there as well. She has a very thick Samoan accent. So, hey.
Liel's be there. So this Thursday we've got a meeting in Henderson. Friday we've got a meeting in Whenuapai. Saturday we've got a meeting in Wellsford. But the main one is the one you're going to MC at Henderson on Thursday night, which you're going to be a rock star, and I can tell you now.
All right. Anyway, until that time, look, I want to say God bless you and God bless the party. God bless the way forward. And just for everyone out there at all, have a great night. God bless you, every single one of you. We'll see you again real soon. Ka kite.